Hey athletes, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about a really interesting topic called periodization, which is basically your system about how you can optimize your training all year round. For the people that don't know me yet, my name is Nicholas. I am a professional basketball player and a performance coach and strength and conditioning coach. I've helped dozens of athletes turn their training around and go from being an average athlete to reaching their full athletic potential. So without any further ado, let's dive into the video and let's dive into what periodization is. Now, first and foremost, what is periodization? Periodization is a systematic approach that basically divides up your training year into different phases, and that way we can optimize your training. The first phase of periodization training is what's called a macrocycle. A macrocycle is a longer period of time, for example, 6 months to a year, and it's basically with a long-term goal in mind. For example, a long-term goal could be peaking for the playoffs at the end of your sports season. It could be a certain event if you're a track athlete, and it basically builds a whole year around that. Now, the second phase within periodization is called mesocycles. Mesocycles are smaller cycles within the macrocycle, usually 4 to 6 weeks long, and they could each have their specific goals. So if a whole year is 12 months, would typically have about 10 to 12 mesocycles in one macrocycle. Now, within these mesocycles, we have what's called microcycles. And microcycles are the fine-tuning of your training. It's basically your week-to-week training, your day-to-day training. For example, just your weekly structure, that is your microcycle. Okay, so we have three big cycles: your macrocycle, your mesocycle, and thirdly, your microcycle. Now, why does periodization work? That is a really important concept to understand. First of all, periodization makes sure that you can progress without burning out, and make sure that you can progress and go through plateaus, because the long-term goal is always in mind, so we can have a big plan ahead of us. Secondly, periodization makes sure that you can peak at the right time. So that means that you don't have to peak mid-season. It doesn't mean that you can peak at the start of the season. You peak at the right time. We can build all the momentum of our training up with one goal in mind, which is peaking at the right time. 3 is adaptation cycles. We can adapt our body to different stresses. Each building block in our periodization model will be based around a certain stress, so that way we can really adapt our bodies to different types of stresses throughout the whole year, depending on what type of the year you're in and what building block of the periodization model you're currently in. Okay, now that we know all these things about periodization, why it's good, and how we can divide up the year, let's dive into 3 different periodization models that are commonly used. The first periodization model is linear periodization. This is the most common type of periodization model. It is pretty simple. It just starts at really high volumes, low intensity, and basically goes to very high intensity and reduced volume. For example, a building block with linear periodization could look like this. At the start of the cycle, you do 3 sets of 10 of back squat, and at the end of the cycle, you do 4 sets of 3. So that way the volume goes down significantly and the intensity goes up a lot. That is linear periodization. Secondly, we have undulating periodization. Compared to the gradual shift of linear periodization, we can shift intensities from high to low, day to day, week to week. So that way we have volume changes and intensity changes all within one periodization block. Thirdly is block periodization. Block periodization basically focuses on one quality at a time. Obviously, you're still always going to train other qualities too, but it is going to focus on one main quality. For example, one block in block periodization could be focused on endurance and hypertrophy. The next block could be more strength focused. And then thirdly, we could go into a power block. So that way it really divides up the whole macrocycle into different blocks, all focused on a specific quality. Okay, now that we have all this information about periodization, the big question is, how can we apply all of this into our training routine? The first step would be to really set a long-term goal. And a long-term goal could be a specific event that you're prepping for. It could be your playoff series. Whatever it is, we need to have a long-term goal if we are going to plan our whole year around that one goal. Secondly is build your macro cycle. Okay, the macro cycle, like I explained before, is the long cycle, the 6 months to a year, whatever it is. And we are going to divide this cycle up into 3 different blocks. The first phase of this macro cycle would be a base building cycle. Here we are just trying to prep ourselves, trying to get used to the training, strength training. Most likely this will be lower intensity but higher volume training. The second part would be the build phase. This is most likely a little bit more strength based, trying to use our endurance or hypertrophy that we used before and transfer it into strength. And then the last phase of that macro cycle would be a peak phase, more powerful and really specific to what we are to the goal that we are trying to reach. And thirdly, after we break down our macro cycle into these different blocks, we will build our mesocycles. These mesocycles could have specific goals. For example, increase your squat, increase your bench press, whatever it might be. Some mesocycles might still have the same goals, whatever, but we're going to set specific smaller goals for the mesocycles. And then based off that, we are going to have to build our microcycles. So this will be your day-to-day training. Or when are we going to plan our recovery days? When are we going to have off days? What days can we push harder, push less hard? Okay. So that way you have 4 steps to build your own periodization model and apply it to your own training session. So long story short, periodization is your blueprint to long-term success. It's how you can use a systematic approach to your training, make sure that every part of your year is divided into a block, into something that is helping you long-term and help you achieve your peak performance. All right, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video and thought it was valuable, please like and subscribe. If you're interested in implementing periodization into your own training to reach your full genetic potential as an athlete, and you're interested in working one-on-one with me, then click the link in the description and I can see if you are qualified to work together. Anyways, that was it for today. Thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next video.